Hey everyone, this is real estate coach Craig Proctor. Lean on in and we're going to talk about how you can get listings and build a huge listing business. I've made a list here of things I want to cover because I want to do a great job for you from all the way from how do we get great leads to how do we become the last agent that they meet with if they're interviewing agents, how to ask these wonderful qualifying questions, right down to how to tour the home, how to price it properly, and ultimately how to get the seller to choose to want to do business with you versus all other options. So please do let us know that you're with us here today. Check in the comments below. If you could let me know the city and state, or if you're in Canada, the city and province that you operate in, what marketplace you operate in, for a couple of reasons. Number one, I'm going to encourage referrals. I want you guys to get to know each other. Obviously, when you refer clients back and forth, you want to work with an expert. You don't want to work with somebody that's, like the others. So we are going to encourage that. We're going to show you how we're going to encourage referrals back and forth. The other thing I want to do is I have some information I'm going to be offering you towards the end of this, and it kind of lays out the steps on what you need to do to become a listing agent. When I started in real estate, of course, the big banner at the RE/MAX office said, you have to list to last, which is true. And now we have all these changes in the rules, and I believe getting listings is even more important than ever before. So first of all, how do we get good seller leads, right? It doesn't matter how great your listing presentation is if you don't have great sellers. So a big part of this is getting the good seller leads. Okay, how do we do this? How do we get the sellers basically chasing us? And what pre-marketing can we do so the sellers are actually pre-sold or somewhat pre-sold before you and I ever get to their house, right? We want the selling to be easy, right? Or how about this? There is no selling. All right, the marketing that you've done is pre-sold the seller, so they want to work with you and they only want to work with you. That's what good marketing does, right? Gets them to come to you and does a lot of the heavy lifting, a lot of the convincing for you. So we want to create an overflow of business like this. Obviously, some seller leads are better than others. And if you want to get rich in real estate, you got to get the marketing part done right. There are thousands of really skilled real estate agents that are forced out of the business every year because they don't have anyone to sell to, right? You can be the best salesperson in the world. If you don't have anyone to sell to, you're going to starve to death. So the lead generation part of it, how we pre-sell them, I'm going to leave that for a different session. But know that I work with millionaire agents. In fact, I've created more millionaire agents than any other coach or trainer or guru because of that fact, right? We can take an agent and plug them into this marketing so great buyers and sellers come to you. But let's face it, you could still blow it, right? You could still have lots of great leads, great seller leads, and you don't know what you're doing, and they end up, the sellers end up listing with another agent. So we're going to go through all the steps. So step one, got to have great leads. Step two, the leads need to be pre-sold on you. The sellers need to be chasing you. You cannot be viewed as chasing them. That's very bad positioning. We're going to ask the sellers a series of qualifying questions. Okay? Your time is worth a lot, right? Time is worth more than money. So it used to be when I first got into real estate, my broker said, well, Craig, you should meet with anybody. I guess maybe it was good practice, but you have all been in a situation where you're at someone's house and 5 or 10 minutes into the appointment, you've discovered this seller is either not motivated, right? Or their timing's way off, right? Not motivated means, why am I here? These guys aren't even thinking of selling, or they are thinking of selling, but they're 2 years off. You should not be in that situation. Your time is worth something. I want you to think of opportunity cost. Every time you're not, wasting your time with an unqualified seller, you could be doing something more productive. Does this make sense? Smash the like button. Smash the like button. Let me know you're with us. You're alive here. And if you haven't checked in yet, please do so. Let me know what marketplace you're in. So I'm going to give you some of these qualifying questions. Obviously, you want to try, they sometimes don't cooperate, but you want to try to find out what their motivation is. Like, why are you selling? Why is selling the house important to you? Where are you going to? When do you need to be there? Are you speaking to other real estate agents? Do not be afraid to ask that question. Sometimes they'll say, well, no, should I be? And you go, not if you're meeting with me. I'm the only guy you need to talk to. But I want to know if they're meeting with other agents. If they are, I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to say, hey, would it be okay if I was the last realtor you meet with? Why? So I can show you how much extra I do to get your home sold for the most amount of money. Now, if they agree to that, and some of them don't, if they won't agree to let me be last, I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to go first. If it can't be last, I'm going to go first. Some of you might say, well, Craig, what's wrong with that being last strategy is, what if they don't wait for you? Well, here's how we're going to lock them in. Here's the language again. You might want to write this down. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, are you going to be meeting with or speaking with other realtors? And if they say yes, I want you to say, well, I would like to be the last realtor you meet with. Why? So I can show you how much extra I do to get your home sold for the most amount of money. If they agree to that, okay, they're meeting the other realtors on Tuesday and Wednesday, you're going to go in last. You're going to go in Thursday, right? If they agree to it, here's how you're going to lock it in. You're then going to say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, looking them right in the eyes, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I'm going to do a fair amount of work for our meeting on Thursday, and all I ask in return is for your guarantee that you won't list with one of the other real estate agents before you and I meet on Thursday. And again, if I can't get, if I'm looking them in the eyes and I can't get their confirmation, okay, they won't agree to it, I don't feel like this is solid, I will switch and be first in, okay? Now, most sellers don't want to look like liars, right? So I want that commitment. And it is true. Is that not true, guys, that you do a fair amount of work in preparation for these meetings, and you don't want them just to list it with another agent when you've done all this work? So I'm going to ask for that commitment. That's the word I'm looking for, commitment, okay? Do I have your 100% commitment that you won't list with one of the other realtors before you and I have a chance to meet with each other on Thursday or Friday or whenever it is? Okay, so we're going to be last in wherever possible. Why do I want to be last in? I want to be last in because, think about it. If they've interviewed 3 realtors, you're the third realtor they're speaking to. They're already tired of talking to real estate agents. You don't have to be any better than the other 2 realtors. You just have to be as good as the other 2. They're tired of talking to realtors. They're probably just going to list with you. And it's easier to close the deal if you know you're the last one in, right? So what do you guys think about that? Let me know in the comments. Do you prefer to be first in, second in, third in? How about this? Do you even know if they're interviewing other agents? It's a very important question. I know some of you are a little bit shy about asking that question, but we got to know who they're talking to, when they're talking to other agents. This is just how I operated my business. Now, remember, I had a lot of listing appointments. I want to do this right. I just found that if they're interviewing other agents after me, my chances of getting the listing go down, right? So we got to do this the proper way. Okay, we get to the house. I've asked all the qualifying questions. I've decided, okay, this is a seller. They're worthy of my time, right? I know how much they paid for the house. I've asked them about the improvements they've done on the home. I know why they want to move, when they want to move. I know their motivation, okay? So I'm at the house. Knock on the door, extend my hand. I say, hi, it's Craig Proctor with RE/MAX, or your company. Hi, it's Craig Proctor. Good to meet you folks. Are you ready to get your home sold tonight? Right? Hi, I'm Craig Proctor. Nice to meet you. Are you ready to get your home sold tonight? And their response to that gave me a clue. I don't know how I came up with it, but I started doing that. And sometimes when I'd say, hi, I'm Craig Proctor with RE/MAX. Glad to meet you. Are you folks ready to get your home sold tonight? Sometimes they would say yes. Well, that's good, right? I'd walk into the kitchen, and one of the questions I'd ask them is, if you're ready to sell your home, when I get there, please have the tax bill and the property survey sitting out on the kitchen table. So that's easy, right? Knock on the door. You folks ready to get your home sold tonight? They say yes. I walk into the kitchen table, and sitting on the kitchen table, as instructed, is the tax bill and the property survey. That's a really good sign, right? Now, where we sit is very important, okay? How many of you have had this situation before? You walk in the house and they don't bring you to a table, right? They don't bring you to the kitchen or the dining room. Instead, they bring you over to the family room. And so you're sitting on one couch in the family room and they're sitting 20 feet away from you. And you're there to give a presentation, right? You've got your laptop, you got things to show them. This is no good, right? Remember, we are actors, right? And we have a presentation. That's the show, the presentation. And actors, you and I, actors, we need to set the stage. We need to set the stage. So I have learned that if they try to bring me into a family room where I'm sitting 20 feet away from them, that is not effective. I'll politely ask them, could we sit at the kitchen table? Or could we sit at the dining room table? How many of you like that? Smash the like button. Maybe give me a little heart if that makes sense. It's the details. You see, how did I get all these little details? From listing over 10,000 homes. Okay, some of you know my story. Within 3 years of having my real estate license, I became the #1 RE/MAX agent, not in the country, but in the whole world, because of all these little details. Okay, success is in the details. So now we're sitting at the kitchen table. Okay, this might sound like minutia, but check this out. How many of you have noticed when you're getting into your presentation, you're usually presenting to two people, right? Usually presenting to a husband and wife. And so here I am playing this game, like you do as well, of trying to divide my attention between the husband and the wife, right? We try to do that. Look at the husband, look at the wife, look at the husband, look at the wife. No matter how good of a job that you and I try to do in dividing our attention between husband and wife, I found that often one of them felt left out. One of them felt like I was paying more attention or talking to one of them more than the other. So this goes on for years. Then finally, I get this idea. Why don't, when I sit down at the kitchen table, since I'm the actor and the director and I get to set the stage, when I'm meeting with two people, husband and wife, let's say, I started asking them to sit beside each other. Brilliant, right? After years of bobbing my head back and forth. So I would sit them either to the left of me, or the right of me. So when I'm looking at one of them, I'm looking at both of them at exactly the same time. How many of you do that? How many of you have figured that out? Like that would be an easier way to do it. Now, I even figured out, do you know, I feel more comfortable when my laptop is on my left side and the sellers, husband and wife, are to my right. So I just started setting it up that way. Now, you might be a right-hand presenter. You might have to be a left-hand presenter. Let me know in the comments below. What are you, a right-handed presenter or a left-handed? What I mean by that is, think about you sitting at their kitchen table. Would you prefer to have the sellers to the right of you or to the left of you? Just do a little survey here. Let me know in the comments below. Would you prefer to have the sellers sitting beside each other to the left of you or to the right of you? Now, you'll notice I'm not even into the presentation yet. So I plunked down my briefcase. We decided where we're going to sit. Husband and wife are to the right of me. My laptop's to the left of me. Boom, I power up my laptop. What are we going to do next? Now we're going to tour the home. Now, this is really important. Obviously, we want to see the product we're dealing with. And if you're like me, I'm going on 3 or 4 or 5 listing appointments every day. I need to take notes. Honestly, I need to take notes because I don't want to leave anything out. And honestly, by the time I get to the last appointment, if I've done 3 or 4 or 5 listing appointments in one day, I might mix up like what house has what features. I also noticed as I'm walking around the house, the sellers quite like this, right? They like that you're detailed. Even if you're not a detailed person, take a notepad, right? And or you could use your phone, the note section in your phone. And I'm just taking notes as I go through the house, and it's helping me look like I'm really accurate to the sellers and I'm a detailed person, but also, you know, for my own use as well, I want to make sure I capture all the positives of this property. But here's the big deal. You and I are walking them through the house, and they're saying, well, this is the living room. You're like, oh, that's amazing. This is the kitchen, right? But as they're walking you around and they're showing you what they've done, some of the things they've done to the house are not going to make a difference, right? They're going to say to you, oh, we went to Italy last year. We bought this $3,000 door knocker. And you're thinking to yourself, well, that's nice, but we're not going to get $3,000 more for the home because of your $3,000 door knocker. So, that's a process we go through. What improvements are going to make a difference? What improvements are not? But here's what I'm really doing. As I'm touring the home, I'm asking the husband and wife really good questions about what they do for a living, right? They're asking me questions, and by the questions they ask of me, and by how they answer my questions, I'm determining their personality type. Now, if you've studied DISC personality, I was the first guy to bring this into real estate 30 years ago. We've got D, I, S, and C. Now, this is something I had to learn. How many of you would agree with this statement? You could be the best real estate agent that they meet with. You could have the best track record of all the realtors they met with. You could be the most experienced realtor of all the realtors they're meeting with, but you could still lose the listing if they don't like you. Okay? Now, if it's true that there's 4 different personality types, you're one of them. Okay? So a lot of you have done the test. Let me know if you've done the DISC personality test. I mean, I made that really popular. All the franchises are using it now, but I was the first guy to do this. Your personality, whether you're going to have a higher personality, right? Some of you might have a tie between two of the personalities, D and I or whatever, but most of you are going to have a dominant personality, D, I, S, or C. That personality that you have dictates how you would make buying decisions. We assume that everyone's like us, right? So if you're a high D personality, you might make decisions quickly, right? So if you're selling your home, you might decide which real estate agent you would use. If you weren't a realtor, you might make a decision like this very quickly in 10 or 15 minutes. If you're an S or C personality, you might take an awful long time to make a decision. You might want to think about things overnight and do some research. I did not understand when I got into real estate that not every home seller is like me. You see, as real estate agents, we falsely assume that everyone is like us, that all the sellers we meet with would make a decision the way that we would make a decision. And that was a very costly mistake for me, because I would lose business where I had no business losing the business. I was the most qualified, I had the best track record, I had the most experience, but I still lost the listing. How do you know this is happening? How many of you have had the experience where you don't get the listing and the next day you follow up with the home seller and you say, hey, it was great meeting you last night. I just wanted to follow up and see if you've made any decisions about the house yet. And they say, it was a really tough choice, but we decided to go with so-and-so. We decided to go with another realtor. And you say, may I ask why? And they say to you, well, we just felt more comfortable with him or her. What are they saying? They're saying they didn't feel comfortable with you. So the point is, if you want to be unstoppable, and I know you do, and if you agree there's 4 major personality types, we don't want to be limited to 25% of the marketplace, right? You don't want to only do business with people that have your type of personality. So we learn how to sell your presentation, how to present your presentation to different personality types. And you say, well, Craig, that's marvelous. But how do I know what personality type they are? It's not like we're giving the sellers a test. That'd be great, wouldn't it? Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, before we get started, I'm going to give you this personality test. No, we can't do that. But I can teach you what questions to ask, and by how they answer the questions, it gives you a clue to their personality. Let me give you an example. So let's say we're looking around the house and I say to husband and wife, hey, so what do you do for a living? That might be, it just sounds like casual conversation, right? What are you doing for a living? And the husband says, well, I am a negotiator for General Motors, high D personality. And the wife says, I'm in sales, probably a high I. Or she might say, I'm a nurse, right? Or I'm an accountant, where she might be an S or C personality. So one clue is their occupation, okay? Now, if you walk into their house and they slap you on the back and they give you a glass of wine and they're really talkative, pretty good indication it's a high I personality. Now, for those of you that also have a high I personality, how many of you are like that? Let me know in chat. You're a people person, you like to talk, you get along with a lot of people, and here's the danger. You might walk into their house and they come up and they're really friendly and you hit it off right away and they give you a glass of wine and you're having such a great time. And an hour later, you're driving home in your car and you realize, man, I was having such a good time. I forgot to get the listing signed. Now, that's a joke, obviously, but you guys know what I'm saying. How many of you can relate to really hitting it off with the client, right? And then there's other situations where it's not really working. How many of you can relate to things seem to be going okay during the presentation, and then all of a sudden, boom, like that, you just feel something change. You feel like you lost it, right? So a big part of what I teach you is the science of not just what to say, but how to say it. Another example is, if you're an S or C personality, okay, you're a very detailed person, and you might think, well, everyone makes decisions like me, right? They spend, I know one friend of mine, he's so detailed, he does so much research when he's going to go buy a new car. By the time he's done all the research and he's ready to buy, the new models are coming out, and he has to start his research all over again, right? There's people like that. So if you're a realtor that's very detailed, you might think, well, these sellers, they want to know all the facts, and you've got charts, and you brought 78 comparables out. And if you're presenting to a high D or I personality, watch their eyes. Like, you're liking your presentation, they're not liking your presentation, right? Their eyes are rolling back in their head. They've already decided in the first 5 or 10 minutes whether they like you or they don't. So we could do special training. We do special training inside of Craig Proctor Coaching for how to get the great leads, how to get them to call you, how to get the marketing to position you as the expert, and then how to identify the personality type of the seller, the sellers and buyers, so I can present this information in the right way, right? We've got to learn to present the information the way the prospect wants the information based on their personality. How you buy or sell has got nothing to do with this, right? But you can see how that's a fatal mistake. Well, this is the way I would make a decision, so I just assume everyone's like me. Wrong. Okay, next on my list. So here's where we're at. We started talking about how do I get the good seller leads in the first place? How do I create this overflow so I can decide not to work with people that are jerks, right? Or people that are unqualified or not motivated. I've got to have a sifting process so I'm not wasting my time with people that aren't going to sell their home. So we talked about all the qualifying questions. We talked about the benefit of being last in. We even talked about where you and the sellers should sit at the kitchen table, right? Why that's important. We talked about the tour of the home. So twofold, right? You're going to check out the house, write down all the notes about the pertinent features. But really, this is the key as to we're going to find out who we're dealing with. What's their personality type? Why? Because when I get back to the kitchen table to do this presentation, I am going to tailor the presentation based on their personality. Not based on what I think, based on how they want to be sold. When you learn how to do this, you want to know what happens? Everybody likes you. You don't want to have a business where you're effective with 25% of the clients. You want to have a business where 100% of the people like you, right? Make no mistake about this. A lot of this is about likability, right? Would you guys agree? How many of you, let me know in chat, you've lost business because it wasn't anything to do with your track record or your skill set, and it's frustrating. You lost business because they just, for whatever reason, clicked. They clicked. They got along with the other agent better. Okay, so now we get into the presentation. Okay, the first thing we're going to do in the presentation is we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. The reason the sellers are interviewing agents in the first place is because either they've had a bad experience, right? Or they've got friends or relatives that said, when we sold our last house, it was a nightmare. So somebody has warned them that there's a big difference between real estate agents, and they're right, there is. One of the biggest complaints that home sellers have is the agent lists the home and there's a lack of communication and the homeowner feels left out. The homeowner feels they do have to chase the listing agent to find out what's going on. So you're going to talk about how you do it differently. You're going to acknowledge the elephant in the room. Don't ignore it. You're going to say 72% of homeowners would not go back to their last agent. The number one complaint was poor communication. So Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, this is how we assure this is never going to happen. I promise to return any call you make of me within 24 hours, or I'll deduct $500 off my commission. And you give it in writing to them. And we're going to provide you a market report every single week. Every single week, me or my assistant, we're going to call you and we're going to tell you how many showings you had, what the feedback was from the buyers on all those showings, and most importantly, what we're doing to market and promote your home, and then we're going to answer any of your questions. Every week, you're going to get that report. So if we don't hear from you, at least every week, you're going to hear from us on exactly what's going on. And if any of that doesn't happen, any week or any time you call us and we don't get back to you within 24 hours, I will personally knock $500 off my commission. Now, because we're actually going to do this, I don't have to deduct $500. And when they try to negotiate my fee down, I'm like, well, hang on a minute. Give me a chance to earn the fee. Okay, if I do a great job and I sell your home for the price that we agree it's worth, don't I deserve my full commission? I communicate, I contact you every week, I follow up with all your calls. Trust me, this will help you get a higher commission. Okay, we're next going to talk about the unique services that you offer that the other agents don't offer. What unique services do you offer that they can't get anywhere else? Well, here's the problem for some of you. You don't have any, right? What you're saying is exactly what the other two agents said, right? Well, I've lived in this town for 17 years and I know everybody and I try really hard. I really care about my clients. I'm ethical. I'm a great negotiator. That's exactly what agent number 1, 2, and 3 said. What do you got that your competitors don't have? These are your unique services, your unique services. You got to have them, right? Let me give you an example of one. Okay, now, many of you might not be able to do what I'm going to say right now, but I will teach you how to be able to do it. So I'm going to grab a piece of paper here. Okay, piece of paper. Here is a piece of paper. Okay, this is a lined piece of paper. And pretend on this piece of paper were the names of all the buyers that you had in your database that were looking for a home. Right? You have buyers in your database. So I hand this piece of paper, pretend you're the seller, and I hand you this piece of paper, and imagine it had names of all the buyers that they're in my database, and I'm sending them properties. We falsely believe that the seller wants to list their home. And what we don't understand is our real competition isn't even the other real estate agents. The real competition are the iBuyer companies. Please write this down or type it into comments. Sellers want buyers, and buyers want houses. As real estate agents, we're like, oh no, they want to list their home. No, they hate listing their home. How many of you hate moving? The tradition. Why do you think there's all this popularity with these iBuyer companies? Because home sellers hate selling their home. Getting kicked out for every showing takes weeks or months. They got to clear out the kid and the dog every time there's a showing and sit around the corner in the rain, and then the buyer doesn't show up. They hate it. So I want you to position yourself as you are the agent with the buyers. Now watch how this works. Pretend you're the seller, and I say to you, oh, hi, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. In preparation for our meeting here tonight, I took the liberty to search my database, and I found 87 buyers that are looking for a home in your area, in your price range. And here's a list of them. And I hand this list, imagine, I hand this list, and it's full of buyers' names. Should you decide to list your home with me, the very first thing that I would do is I would send detailed information and pictures of your home out to the 87 buyers that I currently have in my database. Now watch carefully here. It sounds kind of crazy, but it's almost like I've been looking for a buyer before you and I even met tonight. Pause. What seed am I planting in their head? Craig's the one that has all the buyers. Let me keep going with this. So I've got 87 buyers in my database. If you decide to list with me, should you list with me, the first thing I would do is I would email out detailed information on your home and pictures to the 87 buyers in my database. Do you know, sometimes we get a hit right away. Sometimes we get multiple offers. You mentioned that you had met with a couple of other agents. Did the other two agents you meet with, did they talk to you about how many buyers they were currently working with? Pause. And do you want to know what the sellers will say? No, Craig, the other two agents we met with, they didn't talk to us about having any buyers. All the other agents wanted to talk about is if we were to list with them, what they would start to do to try to find a buyer for our home. Boom. What conclusion did the sellers come to? Now, do you guys notice how it was way more powerful, them coming to that conclusion? Write this down. It's way more powerful if you let the prospect comes to their own conclusion versus you telling them the conclusion. Right? I could have said this. I could have told them the conclusion. I could have said, hey, I've got Mr. and Mrs. Home Seller, I've got more buyers than the other agents. Not as good, right? What's better is the setup here. I want the words to come out of the seller's mouth. Now, if I'm feeling really confident at the end of this, and this is beautiful, but I got to be feeling confident about this. I'll say, so Mr. and Mrs. Seller, it was a pleasure meeting you here tonight. Let me ask you this. Now that you've met me and you've met the other two realtors, who do you think the local buyers would be more likely to call? Myself or one of the other two realtors you met with? And 9 out of 10 times, they look at me and they say, well, obviously, the buyers would be more likely to call you, Craig. And then they realize what they've done and they start to laugh. This is what I can teach you guys to do. This is the art of selling. This is presenting. I would show you how to set yourself so far apart from the other real estate agents. I would win the listing 9 out of 10 times. Now, I became really good at this because it was a system. Now, what I said to you, I would say to seller number 1, seller number 1,000. I perfected this listing presentation. How did I do it? In the beginning, I knew nothing. In the beginning, I had no confidence. In the beginning, a bunch of garbage would come out of my mouth and I got nowhere. In fact, my mindset was, nobody's going to list with me. Then I started to play around with the words that came out of my mouth. And you want to know what I noticed? Some of the things I said, as I watched the seller's eyes, some of the things I said, they really liked. It worked. Other words, other things I said fell on deaf ears. They were ineffective. So in my first couple of years of real estate, it was just trial and error. It's like, hey, some of the words that come out of my mouth actually work, right? They like it. And a lot of the stuff I'm saying is ineffective. So it was a matter of testing and tweaking for years and years to figure out what worked the best and then put those words in the right order. So here's what happened. When I had this perfected, when I couldn't make it any better, I would just show up. If I had 4 or 5 listing appointments every day, show up, pull the string, and I would literally just repeat the same thing in the same order over and over and over again. I'm saying the exact same thing in the same order. That is called a presentation. And it helped me become the #1 RE/MAX agent in the world. Now, here's the good news. I'm no different than you. I started in real estate, I had no money, didn't know anything about marketing, advertising. I didn't even like houses. I only got into real estate because my dad was a real estate agent. Would you guys like me to teach you how to do this so you don't have to spend 30 years in the business like me? If you would, book a call with me. If you think, Craig's the real deal, all these other guys have never had their license, pretenders. If you think Craig's the real deal and you value experience and track record, book a call with me. I'm going to give you, if someone could type this into the domain name, we're not done yet, by the way. Type in craigproctorcall.com, no spaces, craigproctorcall.com. This is a free breakthrough call. What's the catch? There's no catch. It won't cost you any money. I'm not going to try to sell you anything. I'll ask you a bunch of questions about your business, where you are now, and where you want to go, and I will tell you what I could do for you. And you're either going to say, yeah, I like it, and then we could talk about, okay, what would it look like to work with Craig Proctor? We all these different levels. Or you might not like it. You might say, no, I'm not interested in this, and it costs you no money. You just continue on doing what you're doing. But how many of you do like this? Again, if you do, smash the like button. Maybe give me a little heart. What I'm sharing with you is my experience, what I've learned. And this training session today is absolutely free of charge. You're not obligated to do anything. If you like it, maybe you might want to share this, hit the share button, and share it with other real estate agents that you think would benefit from what we talked about today. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about are unique performance guarantees that you can offer. So we're going to have unique services. I mentioned our buyers in waiting program. Here's another unique service. I reinvented the traditional open house. Instead of sitting in an open house for 3 or 4 hours, I would borrow listings from the other RE/MAX agents when I didn't have any listings, and I would organize a tour of homes. I might have 6 houses open on a Sunday afternoon, but each house is going to be open for only 10 or 15 minutes. I know you're thinking, well, how could you sell a home in 10 or 15 minutes? I cannot. However, by having 6 houses open, and on purpose, each house open for a very short time period, on purpose, I'm driving all the buyers that want to see the 6 homes to each house individually. I'm driving all the buyers to each house at exactly the same time. Why would I want to open it for 4 hours? I want it open for 15 minutes. I want everyone to come at the same time. What happens is I get 20 or 30 or 40 buyers there. Now, pretend you're the buyer. You walk into my open house, you're like, oh my God, look at all the buyers here. If you really like this house and you saw 30 or 40 other buyers there, as a buyer, psychologically, what impact would that have on you? The seller, I ask the seller, my home seller, to be present. I don't kick him out during the open house. I want to show off my marketing savvy. If the house doesn't sell in a couple weeks, it's easy for me to get a price reduction, right? The seller can't say to me, well, your marketing doesn't work. You didn't show the house enough. Nope. You were there, Mr. and Mrs. Home Seller. You saw it with your own eyes. Unfortunately, we brought 78 buyers through your home over the last couple weeks, and they're not interested in your home at this price, and it helps get a price reduction. Also, it helps me meet with hundreds of buyers every month because I make this an event. So what is it? It's a new twist on an old idea. This is what I mean by being different. How many of you would agree it's actually easier to be different than it is be better, right? When I was a new agent, I wasn't better. I just had to be different. Within 3 years, I convinced my marketplace and the world I was the #1 agent for RE/MAX. I only had my license for 36 months. I learned how to be different, okay? I looked at industries outside of real estate, and I realized we can bring a lot of these ideas outside of real estate into real estate, and I could be very successful, but so can you. Okay, next, we're going to talk about statistics. We're going to look for statistics that make you look good. Now, if you're brand new in the business, like I was at that point, I was like, well, I don't have any statistics. We could leverage off your brokerage statistics, or maybe if you're with a franchise, your franchise statistics, but we're looking for like days on the market, list to sales ratio, the percentage of homes that you or your company list that close. We're going to use these in your presentation. We're going to also, and this is big, we're going to offer performance guarantees. The one that I'm most famous for, of course, is if I don't sell your home, I'll buy it. I give them an upfront written guarantee. If they price their home at the price I recommend, I guarantee them 90% of market value. If it doesn't sell, if you want, at the end, I'll buy your home for 90% of what we're going to list the property at here. They like that because now they can go buy another home. I know a lot of you are like, well, that's too much to take in. Craig, that scares the heck out of me. Wouldn't I get stuck owning a lot of houses? No, because you're going to sell them. If think about this. If a home seller listed a home, they listed their home with you at the price you recommended, do you think you could sell that house for over 90%? You're going to buy it at 90. How about you say 85? Do you think the open market, if you brought the price down a bit, do you think a real buyer would come in and buy that home for more money than your guarantee? That almost always happens. Sometimes it doesn't. I had to buy two, actually, over 30 years. But I'll tell you, the clients, it's optional, right? We're not trying to rip them off. We're not trying to make them do it. We're just saying, hey, we have an insurance policy that we can offer you that no other real estate agent has, which is if you move up and you buy any one of our listings, rather than getting stuck with the risk of owning two homes, I'll give you a guarantee that if we don't sell your house within 120 days, I'll step in and buy it for 90% of market value. I don't want to buy it. You don't want me to buy it. We're going to try to sell it to an outside buyer, but that gives the move-up buyer the confidence to go in with a cash offer, right? What are the other agents saying? They're like, oh, don't worry, go buy the other house. I'm sure your house will sell. And if it doesn't sell, they're in a big mess. So these are all performance guarantees to help you look really good. You could do something simple like this. You could say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you don't want to buy homes, right? So do this one. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you list your home at the price I recommend, I'm so confident in my ability and my marketing that I will get you an offer, not closed. I'll get you an offer on your home in under 30 days. And if it takes longer than 30 days to get an offer, when it does sell, I'll reduce my commission by $1,000. All of you could do that right away, right? You all know how to reduce your commission, right? It's one thing we know how to do, but at least this way you've got an opportunity of getting your full commission. If they want you to cut, you say, well, give me a chance to earn it. I mean, if I get a good offer on your home within 30 days, certainly I've earned my keep here. I should be paid my full fee. When we get done with the benefits, so this is hours of training that we provide. And again, I encourage you all, if you like this, I encourage you all to take advantage of the free breakthrough call at craigproctorcall.com. It's free of charge. You like this? I'm giving this for free. Imagine how good the one-on-one is going to be. Also, I have this for you. I prepared, if you came on a bit late, I prepared a free report on the 9 top reasons why you lose a listing. It's really good. You can see there's about 12 pages here. If you would like that, I don't know how that actually works, whether we want you to drop your email address in or whether there's a link. If you don't see a link for that, then drop in your email address and someone on my team will be happy to email that out. Okay, we'll send it out electronically so you can start to use some of my ideas. The point I want to make here today is there are some best practices. You don't have to try to figure this out on your own. There's people like me that have been in the industry for 30 years that do a really good job of explaining to you what the top agents all over the world are doing, okay? They have a plan. They have a presentation that's really, really good. And I know some of you are using the wing it strategy. I used to use the wing it strategy. What I mean by that, you'd show up at the seller's house, you'd have no idea what you're going to say. It's exciting, right? Because, hey, whatever I say next is going to be a surprise, but it's not a plan. It's not the best way to do it. When you're flying in an airplane, don't you hope the pilot has a flight plan? If you were having surgery, wouldn't you hope the surgeon has a procedure, they have a systematic way of doing it? That's what I provide you, okay? And imagine if this really is true, and you're using the Craig Proctor presentation, and if you were saying the same thing in the same order over and over again to get the same great results, not only can I make you a superstar, but eventually, as you get an overflow of business, what happens? You might want a team. Well, guess what? What I taught you, you can now teach, you can gift or teach this system to an agent on your team, right? If we really can teach you how to get 8 or 9 sellers that you meet with to sign on the dotted line at the right commission, right, at the right price for the right length of time, that's a system that's duplicatable. So first of all, I teach it to you. And then if you want to build a team or you have a team, then you can teach this system to them. And that means you make more money, you have more time off, and you actually start to have a real business. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this. If you have, please let me know in the comments below. Please follow me, because whenever I go live, you want to get this information. If you haven't already smashed the like button or give me a little heart, maybe click on a little heart, that would be great if you could do that. I also have one more thing for you. I have a private Facebook group with some of the top agents all over North America. How many of you would like to be part of that private Facebook group? Type yes into the comments below. Just type the word yes. If you would like to be part of my private, it costs you $0. You're not obligated or committed. Why would Craig Proctor, why would I want you to be part of the private Facebook group? Because I want you to hang around with a whole bunch of Craig Proctor members that are doing really well. Social proof, right? I know what it's like. You got everybody coming at you trying to sell you stuff, right? I get it. And most of these gurus, let's be honest, if you took the time to do the research, many of them never even sold real estate. Never had a license. Or if they did, they were failures at it. People ask me, well, Craig, if you're so good at this, why aren't you still selling real estate? I did for 30 years, and I coached agents the whole time. Okay, then I moved to Florida, and then I wasn't in that marketplace, and now I get to focus on doing this. But you also get the benefit of thousands and thousands of agents that use the Craig Proctor system. I want you to plug you into those. So type in yes, or type in private group. Type in private group, and we'll get you an invitation to the Craig Proctor private group. So I'm gonna keep coming at you with good stuff. Today was about listing present techniques, how to get have the right mindset, right? What are all the nitty-gritty details? You got to admit, everything I talked about makes sense, right? It makes sense because it's real. These are the strategies, the thinking, the processes, the systems that I applied every single day to sell over 10,000 homes and become the #1 RE/MAX agent in the entire world. So thank you so much for being here. Don't forget to order this free report. Most importantly, book your call with me. Okay, what was that domain name again? The domain name is craigproctorcall.com. It's a clickable link. You'll go to my Acuity Day Timer, find a time and day that's available for you, and we'll see you on the other side. Thank you so much for watching this, guys. We'll see you again next time. This is Real Estate Coach Craig Proctor. Hi, this is Craig Proctor. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed that video. And listen, I've got a lot more information for you to help you grow your real estate business. You see, several times a week, I record new videos and I load them onto this YouTube channel. What I'd like you to do, if you'd like to access them, are two important things, and both are totally free. Number one is I'd like you to subscribe to this channel. You're gonna see a little subscribe button for you to click on. And if you don't already have an account with YouTube, it's free for you to set it up. It's really easy, it's free, but you've got to subscribe to this channel. And the most important thing is to ring the little bell right next to the subscribe button. And that's gonna let you know every time I load new money-making videos to help you grow your real estate business. So make sure you subscribe right now, you ring the little bell, and we'll see you on the next video.